Welcome to Mindfall, where the questions twist and turn. Dive deep with us, we'll watch ideas burn. Down the rabbit hole we go, chasing thoughts you've yet to know. Mindfall's here, let's start the show.
Hi, welcome to Mindfall with Mike and Mike. In this podcast, we explore ideas that take us down the proverbial rabbit hole, and we ask and answer the hard questions with the help of an AI search engine.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Mike. In this podcast, we're going to ask some really good ones. Mike, what are we going to talk about today?
You know, Mike, I've been looking at the internet a little bit, and I'm always inundated with what generation is the best. And I think it'd be interesting to explore. I know it's been done a couple times here or there, but I want to touch some things more so than, well, we drank from the water hose and all that type of stuff. Let's dive a little bit deeper into it.
All right. So this is how this is going to work. I'll ask the AI search engine a question about why Gen X is the best generation. We'll read the responses, we'll ask further questions, we'll contemplate the concepts, and dive deeper than we think any other podcast has. Mike, are you ready to dive in?
Let's Mindfall, Mike.
All right, let's go for it. Today we are using Chat GPT 5.2. And I asked the question, although all the traditional generation groups have their benefits, why is Generation X the best of them all? And why will it never be replicated? The cultural middle child that never asked for attention and never needed it. Why is Gen X the best? Hey, Mike, straight out of the gate, we grew up without the internet, and we had to adapt to it as adults. There is no other generation out there that is ever going to hit that stride. We are pre-technology, and we are post-technology.
And you said
we gotta make it work.
you said adults. I would say it was prior to us being adults. I remember being in high school and going way back when the modems made the crazy sound, but I was on the BBS, and you would go onto somebody's bulletin board, and that's kind of how it all started. And for me,
I mean, I had mail. Did you have mail?
I did. Everybody had AOL at one point in their life, but then I went to Net Zero because it was free.
Free internet was the best internet. I used it too. And you hope that the phone number that you used from the last Net Zero worked with it when you need it this time. But we also could do it manually. If the internet died today, could anybody younger than us survive?
I think they would struggle because they are so connected. The phone. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but the phone is an integral part of their life. From getting directions to texting. I mean, and that's not necessarily internet, but just the social aspects and social media of it all. They really would struggle without technology.
Yeah, and not everybody could read a map. And, some people are map challenged. But as kids, did you ever pull that Rand McNally map out of the seat pocket of your dad's seat in front of you and just look at the foolish thing and figure out where everything was?
On that grid system with this road is on A12, and you had to figure that out, and then that's continued on the next page, and you had to figure that out. And God forbid you're trying to drive. I remember one time I was trying to drive, looking at the Rand McNally, and I was veering off into the shoulder, almost into the grass. I was like, I stopped my car, but it was just part of the process because you don't want to miss that exit.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, it was part of life. You had to be able to do it manually, but when the technology came along, it was nice to have that, and we had to adapt to that change. We really just had to move forward with it. We didn't have a choice.
Mike, we went from the Rand McNally to MapQuest, if you remember that, where we printed out the directions, and it was a little bit better than trying to figure it all out or write it down. And then from MapQuest to like either your Google Maps or whatever map system that you use. But there was that in between where you printed out Google Maps and had a page full of instructions. Make a left here and 2 miles, make a right. Definitely challenging. Nobody was just saying, and make a right here. It was always nice to have a wingman to help guide you on your road trip for that one.
My brother and I navigated our way. He was 17, I was almost 16, and we navigated our way from where we lived in Maryland to Kansas, and we had a AAA triptych but we didn't pay for the fancy triptych. We just had the paper one. Well, right around Breezewood, Pennsylvania, and we bought some extra drinks. One of those drinks spilled on the triptych.
Uh-oh.
Our trip took a little bit longer than we anticipated. Because God forbid your paper map got wet or ruined, you're lost. That's it. You're done. You're done. Road trip's done.
Yeah, so technology, I think, is one of the things that we were able to bridge because, our parents, God forbid, they still struggle with technology, even to this day. But, we grew up with it. We learned it. My first computer is a dinosaur right now. It was a K-Pro 2, which was green screen. And everything was, dot matrix. It was just, it was not good.
But kind of what Chat is saying here, and the reason I pulled the screen back up is there won't be another generation that has to go from no internet to internet and bridge that gap. The boomers that came before us, they still struggle. I mean, my folks still struggle with using the internet at times. They're getting more technologically proficient, but they're definitely not to the level that you and I are. And our kids wouldn't be able to regress and go back and use the Dewey Decimal System to look up something in the card catalog.
Did they even teach that? I don't even know how that works anymore. I mean,
yeah, you and I are part of that generation that had to bridge that gap, and it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Now, moving forward, how did you get places as a kid, Mike?
If you did not have a bicycle, you were struggling. you were without, because nobody wanted to walk, and we went on some adventures.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this. It said, let themselves. I was a latchkey kid. You solve problems without adult supervision. I mean, for the good or the bad of it, I feel like we were forced into independence, and we had to learn to be resilient. You had to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. We are the generation that defined FAFO. Just plain and simple.
It's funny. You always see that now. I'm just like, man, wow, did I live that?
Yeah. We did it. We went and tried it, and it was up to us to figure it out, to go and do that thing and experiment. Our parents were, at work, or they were out doing something else, and we had that freedom where they might have been micromanaged as children, and they just, Mike, they had to be reminded at 10 o'clock that they had kids.
Do you know where your children are? Before the TV went to the American flag and it went off and played, had the whatever those 3 or 4 or 5, 6 lines were, and TV went off at like 10, 11 o'clock because it was done. TV's over. Yeah. Didn't start back up till 6 o'clock in the morning. TV is over for today. Enough.
And we came in when it was dark, when the street lights came on, and if you wanted dinner, you showed up at dinner. If you didn't want dinner, or you just had to figure it out. Maybe you ate at a friend's house, and you called your mom on the dial phone. I still remember my home phone number from when I was 7. Yeah. Because you had to memorize it. I'm not sure I could pull up. I remember my wife's phone number some days, and it's in my phone.
If you ask me my kids' cell phone numbers, I have no idea. And if it doesn't come up, I have them all set with their picture. If your picture don't come up with this, I have no idea who's calling me. So I don't recognize the numbers. And another thing about the whole resiliency, independence is that, we literally had if parents weren't home, you had to cook the dinner. You had to take care of your siblings. You had to, I started washing clothes when I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. It's one of those things that we were forced into, like, hey, you're going to get yourself ready. You're going to do this because I'm not doing this for you. The generation prior to us, I feel like they're bubble wrapped. They don't have the freedoms that we have. They're very living a scheduled life. Well, after school, you're going to go to soccer practice. You're going to do this. Then you got your study group. And then you got the play date or whatever. Everything is so scheduled out. Yeah. Because, I was lucky that, I got to practice on time. And most times I took myself,
You rode your bike to practice, and it was it was back at the school where you had ridden your bike from earlier that day. You know, how many kids are walkers to school anymore? Is that even a thing?
In my
Can you walk
elementary
or ride your bike to
school,
school?
the elementary school is like if you are like 2 blocks away, they make you walk. But it's the
Yeah.
high school. I think it's all regional and depending upon where you live. But yeah, you don't see it too much. I mean, how many kids have ever had to actually get their tires changed off their bike because they ran the tread off the bike?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not getting a new one. You just ran. You got a new tire.
Hey, we're gonna meet up right after school. We're gonna go up to the dirt trail, hill number 3. We're gonna meet up there. Oh man, I can't do it. My tire's flat again. I was doing skids down the road and I blew through the back tire. I'm waiting to get my allowance so I can go out to Kmart and buy myself a new tire. But I'm looking at that. Have you seen that red tire? I'm gonna get that red tire on my 20-inch BMX. And tell you what, it's gonna look rad.
You know what's
It's gonna be
always
killer.
amazing to me when I talk to other Gen X folks is that no matter where you lived, and I'm going to say the United States because outside the country I can't speak for what happened out there. We have similar experiences. If I say these stories, what we're talking about, you can definitely be like, you know what? Yeah, I get it.
And
You may not have the hills if you live in Nebraska or somewhere flat, but same concept. You get something else.
You had rally points. You had defined rally points where you met up with your friends and you went and did things, and you took some toys with you and you went and had fun and you broke stuff and you hoped it wasn't a bone, you hoped it wasn't your bike because you still got to go home at night. And we all have the battle scars to show off the stupid stuff we did.
100%. Yeah. It was a good time. We grew up free, and I had gone back to my old town not too long ago, and I was telling my kids, I used to ride my bike way over here, and as I'm driving 15 minutes past that spot to get to my house, I'm in a car, I'm almost like, if you ever rode your bike that far from the house, I'm killing you, because that's way too far. I'm talking, that would be...
Yeah.
I was like 10, 15 miles from the house. And I'm just like, what was I thinking about back then? But that's the store, like the Kmart or something. That was not close, and that's where I wanted to go. So we took the back roads, but we got there.
Yeah, very similar. But I spent some time in my childhood living in Germany. We didn't live on the military installation. That was reserved for green suit or military. We were civilians, and so we lived out in what they called the economy. We lived out in the neighborhoods. And my neighbor was a few years older than me. I think I was probably 9 or 10, and my neighbor was 16 or 17, but didn't have a car because you couldn't drive until you're 18 over there. Well, he said he wanted to go get his paycheck. He worked at the video rental store on base, and he wanted to go get his paycheck. So he's like, hey, let's just ride into base and we'll go get my paycheck. Sure. I mean, I had done the ride with my parents on a Sunday afternoon, and it was about 15 miles. And so an hour later, we got to base, we went over to the PX, we got some food, got his paycheck, and then we rode home. And my mom said, hey, where'd you go this afternoon? Oh, I was with David, and we went up to base to go pick up his paycheck, and she gave me the side eye,
like what?
And said, "Did you think about what you did?" And I said, "Well, it was a long ride. My legs are a little tired." She's like, "Can you not do that again?" And that's where it ended. It was if something had happened, we would have been stuck. Without a phone to pick up, without anybody to call, without a way to say, hey, I got a flat tire, I'm an hour from the house, and we would have had to just figure it out. And we did. We continually just figured it out.
Yeah. Oh, man. I got a lot of those stories. A lot of those stories.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
That kind of leads into the next part, of why Gen X is just so damn good. We grew up with life is tough, get over it, and move on. Maybe life's going to get better, but what would Joe Dirt say? Life's a shovel, so just dig it. We just did it. We just enjoyed it. Yeah, life was terrible. Chernobyl exploded. couldn't go outside and play. Mad cow was raging. We had the AIDS crisis. Cold War was ending. We were at war with everybody. You know, the Russians were probably going to kill us at any given time. We had to do, you know, duck and cover bomb drills as if, you know, covering our heads and putting them between our knees was going to save our ass from a nuclear explosion. You know, we just went through it all.
I will give, but see, it's like all the generations are going through, you know, because they'll claim, oh, well, we had COVID and we had this and we had that. I'm like, yeah, guess what? I lived through that too. You know, so I had all the other stuff and I lived through that too. So, you know, it's one of those things where I respect all the generations, but, you know, when the younger generations are trying to compare themselves to us or talk smack to us, I'm just like, you haven't even done anything yet. You haven't seen anything. You barely, you know, everything, like my father always used to say this to me, everything you are about to do, I've already done. You know?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Well, we've got through COVID and we had to get shots. Okay. Well, did you have to line up through in grade school and get that stupid time test where they just ran us through the nurse's office one at a time? Or did you, when you went to go play sports and had the public physical where the doctor came and I'll never forget, it was in the cafeteria, they had to step on a stoop, he grabbed their balls, next, and you're open trial to the entire world who's playing sports. And it was like this, and then every year, hey, cough 2 times, okay, next.
You're
he
fine.
was top of
Go for it.
And it's funny because half the time the man didn't even take off the glove. He just kind of kept it going with the same glove. That's the type of nonsense we dealt with, you know? Scarred.
Fluoride in schools. We had the fluoride cups getting passed around in school. You did the swish, you know.
I never did that.
We've been there. We've done it. You know, yeah, our grandparents had it tough. They went through the Depression. And they went through World War II. I'm not trying to knock what they did. They had it tough, but they had the nation all together, and they grew up as a combined nation. And then you get to our parents, and they're boomers. You know, they grew up in the era of prosperity, followed by an era, you know, up and down with politics and up and down with the economy. They went through a lot of it, but
and they went through a couple wars themselves.
Yeah, but they didn't go through the same challenges as we did. And like we were talking about earlier, it's that technological adaptation. We started with black and white TV, 3 channels, and now everything's streaming. We have to figure it out because we have kids that we have to teach how to use those tools so that tomorrow they can pass us. And they're going to be the ones that have to teach us how to use the next tool. But we had to integrate from analog to digital to beyond. And nobody else has really had to do that, and nobody else is going to have to do that. And it's just that much harder of what we went through. You know, you can't challenge it.
Think about this. Our parents, you know, they grew up on records. So did the silent generation. They grew up on records. All that time, I'm going to say the 70s, 8-track. 8-track lasted for about that long. Then we went to cassette. And then you get this whole set of cassettes.
Yeah.
By the way, we're throwing those away. We're going to compact disc. Went to CDs. I said, oh, finally got my CD collection up. Oh, we're not using that anymore. We're going to use portable media, you know, albeit an iPod or whatever. Gone. And now you don't use any of that stuff. You just stream it. So I kind of laugh because I saw stuff like, you know, we were a generation that when we wanted to make a mixtape, we had to listen to the radio, make sure the song was getting played, or maybe put a request in and get the songs that you wanted to make this tape. Making that mixtape was a long experience. That wasn't just like, oh, I want to do this in one day. You know, you want a back-to-back mixtape. That could take you days. And now these kids, all they do now is go to a playlist. Oh, I want this song, this song, this song, this song, this song. And I feel like sometimes they miss the journey of trying to do something. Because it's so instant, so microwave. Like, instantaneous, let's go.
And you hope that the DJ didn't talk over your favorite part of the song.
You are cursing.
No, he cut the outro. How could he cut the outro? That was the best part.
And I really agree that right now, just being able to stream whatever songs you want is great. It is. But we've been through all that technology just to get here. And we're the best generation because we can stream. Yeah, okay, that's nice. but it didn't happen just overnight. You forgot the process.
We had anticipation. We had waiting for that thing.
Yes.
It was hoping it was going to be on the radio, or you read the TV guide or saw the commercial on one of the 3 channels of the show that was going to come on. And if you missed the show, you're screwed. Everybody's talking about it at recess the next day. And you didn't see it? You have a very special episode of Family Ties. You didn't see it?
So you got to wait till you have to wait till the whole season plays out and watch it. And now it's no longer relevant. Or if you were fortunate to have a VCR, you still couldn't talk about it because they're talking about it. You didn't watch it till the next day.
Yeah, and if it was on the VCR, if it was recorded, you really hoped that it didn't record it at the wrong speed or the tracking wasn't screwed up. But the only reason you would have done that is if you're out with your family going to do something, and most of the time you missed the show because Dad was watching football on another channel. You had the one TV in the house. You were lucky if you had 2 TVs. You were rich if you had 3. But somebody was watching the TV.
What rich lifestyle is this person living? We had the color TV, and then my parents had a black and white TV in their bedroom. And then I was normally relegated to watch black and white.
It wasn't until high school, Mike, that I got a TV in my room, and it was a black and white 13-inch TV. And I didn't have one until then. And it had rabbit ears.
Of course. You didn't have cable.
I didn't grow up with a TV in my room.
And you were happy to have that television because you were in control. So what else we got down the rabbit hole of the Gen X that we haven't touched yet?
Well, let's get right back to it. We had healthy skepticism. We didn't trust anything. We challenged everything.
Yeah, still do.
I mean, there's trust but verify. Then there's just good luck with that. Okay, yeah, we're the generation that invented eating popcorn and waiting for it.
I think
we didn't give up.
Go ahead.
We didn't give up.
Part of the challenge of that statement right there, Mike, is us being skeptical. Is now with TikTok and all the instantaneous feedback, everybody's giving their opinion of what they think they saw. But there's a lot of times that we're not necessarily getting the facts.
Yeah.
Everybody's giving a commentary, of whatever is the highlight of the day. But that's still just your opinion. That doesn't mean it happened that way.
Yeah, and going back to the earlier episode we did, truth is defined by what's on social media. We in Gen X, we had to question everything. We had to fact check it ourselves. We didn't trust anybody. We knew the politicians were lying to us. We knew that the companies were lying to us. We didn't trust them. It was advertising, it was all a scam. And the only one we could that we could trust was Mikey. Mikey likes it, And if Mikey likes it, we can trust it.
He did not die from Pop Rocks and soda. That's a misnomer.
No. He made it, and we didn't know any of that until we grew up. But we challenged everything. And, you talk about TikTok and you talk about social media. Mike, would you have survived to be the person you are today if cameras were around when, like social media cameras on your phone were around when we were kids?
Look, first of all, I would have been in trouble because there's a lot of things I have done in my life that if there were social media and cameras back then, I would have been memed many, many times. And I feel like today's kids kind of have to bubble wrap themselves because they are not allowed to make mistakes. And I feel bad for them for that because when you fail, you are not failing just to the people that are there. You're failing everywhere. And even if nobody has a phone up, chances are there's some sort of Ring camera or there's some sort of video camera or something because it's going to get out there if you really do something stupid.
Yeah. And when we were kids, when we were growing up, and we're in our 20s, if you screwed up, you had a small group that knew about it, and you lived with it. You lived with that shame. And that made you the character and person that you are. Where kids today, they have a permanent digital record, like it's talking about here. They're the show The Orville, which is a parody of Star Trek, okay? They had an episode in one of their earlier seasons where they went to this planet and everything they did was scored on social value. And you couldn't do anything if your social currency was low. So if you screwed up, if you wore the wrong clothes, if you said the wrong thing, the people around you could downvote you with their social media, and they shared it with everybody in the world, and your value to society depended on your social score, and it could change in real time. Now, that was a parody, and that was a social commentary and critique in and of itself. But it's so real. I don't know how the kids these days can live with that pressure of being able to FAFO without permanent repercussions that follow them for the rest of their lives.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because I gave a talk to some high school kids that were about to go into college. You know, they wanted to understand some stuff, and they had kids on the panel that were in college, and they had some people like me that, like, I was kind of giving them the perspective of, you know, what I'm looking for when someone graduates out of college if I'm going to hire them, right? And I told them all, I said, do not think for 1 second that once I have your name and you're my applicant, by you telling me your name, address, and some other, you know, your email and some of that stuff, I can do some keystrokes on my keyboard and I can find your social media. And then I will question whether or not, just from some of the videos and stuff I see and how you're presenting, are you a good candidate for working for me? You know, I don't know if I can trust your judgment if you're going to put this out on the internet. That, you know, do I really want you to be my employee? If I can't trust your judgment with the internet, how am I going to trust your judgment at work? So everything you put out to that internet, I want people to understand it never goes away. It's permanent. It's there somewhere.
Yeah.
Even in the Wayback Machine, you can always go back there and find something.
And you're being judged by it. You're always going to be judged by that digital record, that thumbprint that you've left on digital society. I can tell you that you talk to somebody, you meet somebody new, and you and I have a lot of the same tendencies. That's why we're here. That's why we get along the way we have. That within moments of meeting somebody, we are looking them up. We are trying to find their history. We're trying to find, have they been arrested in our little state? Have they been, do they have a court history? You know, is this something that we should know about?
Everybody, I'm trying to give people, but I'm not saying I don't do it, but I'm trying to give everybody a chance. But then if you make me question you, then I'm going to go do a little bit more research and say, okay, no, that adds up. Now I understand.
Yeah, and you can really start to figure this out. You know, we had the ability to identify who we wanted to be. We had the ability to identify our character as people. Growing up, we could experiment, we could try, we could FAFO, and get up, dust ourselves off, and try again. Kids today, both, you can go start at millennials, going up through, you know, the Gen Alpha kids that are out there today. They have to lead very cultured lives, and everything has to be planned out to the nth degree, because it's going to be scrutinized, and they're going to be judged by a court of their peers the moment that happens. It's not just the peers that are around them, it's the peers of the world. A viral video of a kid doing something stupid is going to be across the planet and back to you before you realize how bad you screwed up. That pressure is got to be insane.
Well, and I'd also add, by that, you know, we didn't spend our lives watching other people live their lives. You know, they are now on the phone watching other people live their lives. And I kind of like, and then to me, sometimes when whatever they're watching, a lot of it, like you just said, is curated. You know, how many times did I have to take the picture of my food at this restaurant to make it look like, oh, look how fabulous food I'm eating, or look where I'm at that vacation. And some of it's fake, and it gets to a point where we don't even know what is real anymore. Not to say you're eating the food, you can see the food, but a lot of times, how many times have we seen stuff that's been green screened? They're not there. They might have the clothes on, but they're not at this fancy hotel. They're on a green screen and they're faking it. And but you have to live up to those expectations or present that in some cases. Well, I'm like, stop being fake. Just live your life. Nobody cares.
And in order to be recognized, they feel that they have to live more of a sensational life than the person next to them. It's competition for social value. Where we had innate social value, we started off with a cash reserve of social value. We started off at okay. We were born with it, we started with it, and we could cash it in and build it back up, but it took a while to build it back up. They start at zero, and they can only go down. And it's so hard for them to gain social value because they have to be so much more sensationalized than the people around them. We were able to experiment, we were able to learn, we were able to try, and that helped us identify who we were. And the only court of peers that we were judged by was our buddy who's with us and said, dude, that was really stupid. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I don't want to hang out with you if you're going to do stupid shit like that.
Yes. Sometimes I was the person saying those words, and some of the times I was the person hearing them. That's how it was.
Yeah. Now, let's get right back into it. Boredom.
Mom, I'm bored. Oh, God, never say that. Never say that. Because that means you're going to have
She will find you something to do.
Find you something to do. Oh, you're bored. Oh, okay. That's why you always hear all these other influencers or whatever always talking about, Gen X. We were outside. Because if you stayed inside and said you were bored, you're going to have something to do.
Yeah. And don't keep going back in and out.
Okay.
Once you're out, you're out.
You're letting my good air conditioned house. This house.
I just cleaned this house. Get your dirty feet outside.
You open that door one more time. But we had to figure some stuff out. Guess what? It's funny to me. I'm not saying kids don't read books, but we actually had the actual book and read the book. We spent the time of sometimes, especially if you're listening to a cassette. I'm not saying you couldn't fast forward, but sometimes it was too much trouble to get it right. So you just listen to the whole album. You let it play.
Did you ever read Choose Your Own Adventure books?
Of course.
do you know why Choose Your Own Adventure books don't exist anymore?
I don't.
Because kids don't get to choose their own adventure. We were able to. We were the generation, they made Choose Your Own Adventure books aimed at our generation because we were the live outside generation. We were the kids that went out on a summer's morning and we didn't come in until the streetlights came on, until mom yelled for us. We were outside all day long choosing our own adventure. We went down to the corner of Walk and Don't Walk on our bikes and we looked left, right, and straight and we figured out what we were going to do for the day.
Yeah.
Kids can't do that anymore because there's no individual lines of adventure to choose. They have to go. Everything they're going to do is based on that schedule we talked about earlier. Don't go far because I gotta have you in the carpool and make sure your soccer gear is ready. And right after soccer, I gotta get your brother to lacrosse, and we're gonna be running around all night. And so we're gonna pick up some McDonald's while we're out. McDonald's was a treat. You were lucky to get McDonald's. That was a big deal.
Fast food was a big deal. Fast food was like mom did not feel like cooking, and normally the whole family is in the car, and it's one of those things that she didn't have any food taken out or whatever, and we're gonna stop. And it never happened on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It was either happening on a Friday night because maybe I had a basketball game and it was a treat once every couple months, or on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And for me, my dad wasn't big on McDonald's. He liked KFC, so he'd bring home KFC. I would say that would happen once every couple months. It was not a normal thing because otherwise my mom was just frying chicken up, Yeah. I think part of the difference is like we were the first generation where mom and dad were going to work. Some of us had a stay-at-home mom, but most of us, they were going to work. The generation before us, the boomers, mom was at home. And so we were kind of made to be resilient because we had to figure it out. 'Cause like I said, sometimes I had to cook dinner, or she left something out or said, hey, I need you to start dinner. And a lot of times if she knew she wasn't going to be back in time, she would definitely have we had a crock pot. So she said, it's going to be a crock pot. But just make sure, see if the meat's done, And God forbid you forgot to take out the chicken that was frozen because she was leaving out the door. Take out that chicken until it's defrosted. And you would get home and you're like, oh no, the chicken. You have it under some water but then you're halfway
You hear her pull in the driveway.
Panic.
Man, that cold sweat running down your back was colder than that chicken in that freezer.
Oh, that was a beat.
Like,
that was a beat.
She's gonna kill me.
That's a beating.
And we still got a beating. We know what it's like to still get a beating.
But I forgot to take. It was the small things. Forgot to take out the chicken. That's a beating. Oh my gosh. But you know what, Mike? I wouldn't trade it for anything because I feel like the experiences and the things I did growing up are unmatched. And it made, like we were saying before, it made me into the person I am today.
Yeah, and that's really where everything comes down to is we had to make our own way. We had to figure it out. We didn't inherit it. We weren't handed it. It was get out there, hustle, and if you want to survive, you've got to either do it for yourself or get with your buddies and do it together. And that's the only way that you're going to make it. We had to figure it out, knowing that the world was going to scream down on us and things were going to be hard. It's competency under chaos. It's figuring out how to get everything done when you know not even where the starting line is. But you're still going to try. You're going to take it apart. You're going to tear it down, figure out how it ticks, put it back together, and get it done.
I think, Mike, as we're wrapping this up, I think a lot of the differences of these generations is, and you just hit that word that made me think about this hustle. We were kept broke. If you wanted some money, you had to go get that money. I was out there cutting grass in the spring, summertime. I was shoveling snow. It's funny because, I remember, we got a little bit of snow this past week, but I'll never forget that when one time we had, a few years back, it was probably like maybe a foot of snow. You kind of looking to see, I was looking outside to see who's out there hustling, and there a kid out there hustling. And I say to my son, I said, hey, you want to make some money? There's a lot of driveways out here. And the price for you guys is not the price I was asking for. I was asking for like $5 back in the day, and that seemed like a lot of money. I said, you could probably ask for like $40 or something like that, and you can make some money. And he was like, I'm good, I don't have to do that, I'm almost like, I don't give my kids a lot of money, but it just hurts my heart to say that, you're not out there trying to grind it. Because it's just easy money to be made. And if any Gen X was out there who saw some kid that said, hey, mister, can I shovel your yard for, you know what? I'm going to give him the money because he's out here trying. That's how I feel. Like, I could do it myself, but you know what? I'll give you $40 if you're going to do it, It's just a different time.
And if we had off for school because of a snow day, Mom didn't want us in the house. We weren't going to sit there and play on the Atari or the Nintendo all day long because you're going to get bored of that in 30 minutes anyway. We were up early. Day before, you had your boots lined up, your snow bibs, and the shovel lined up in the garage. You were ready to go.
You ready to go?
My brother and I lived in a subdivision. There were 3 teenage boys on our street. And we always talked, night before the snow, 8 o'clock, we'll be up, and we're going to start shoveling. And we shoveled 22 houses on our street and all the sidewalks, and they were always clear. Our neighbors knew they could count on us. Because we didn't care. We didn't want the money. We wanted it done. We wanted the pride and ownership. We wanted to know that our friends and our neighbors were taken care of, and that little old lady up the street, she had what she needed because we cared. Because we knew that it was pennies on the dollar anyway. If they threw us a couple bucks, great. I mowed lawns like you did. If I mowed, it was $10. If I mowed and trimmed, it was $15. You can't afford that anymore. If you want somebody to mow your lawn, you're paying $100.
Expensive.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I agree with you that it was hustle. That we still hustle. and we're going to continue to hustle. And as we change over from the people in control, the boomers are kind of still running things in politics, they're running business, and it's going to probably skip right over to us when that vacuum... When that vacuum's created, and the millennials jump in, and the Gen Y and the Gen Alphas hop into those career positions, we're going to have to hustle again to show our value, our worth, and what it means for us to exist as a generation and not be marginalized.
I think they already tried to marginalize only because we are not loud. We're not boisterous. We sit back with the popcorn still and like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing that. You know, we're quiet and we're just kind of being observant because we know they're messing up. We're going to be cynical, but we're going to take a step back because we're not going to be the ones to fix it. Because it seems like for a while there, prior to the millennials really getting involved, we were always the ones fixing everything, and we're tired. We're tired of always being the ones that, you messed it up, now I got to come here and fix it, you know? And now it's going to be the question, who's going to fix it?
Your younger Gen Xers are pushing 50. And if you think about that, and when the boomers get out of power, we're going to be pushing 60. And we're not going to have the energy to keep pushing for that. And we're going to sit back, like you just said, in quiet contemplation with the popcorn and say, let's see how this turns out.
Let's see how this turns out.
Because we're scrappy enough. We're scrappy enough. We're going to figure it out. We're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Screw them. We're fine. We're going to make it through this. Then they're done that. Got the t-shirt. Ready to go.
Well, this is an interesting episode. We probably didn't describe why we're the best, because everybody else is going to say, no, well, I had some of the same struggles and all this. But I think, to be honest with you, when it comes down to full experience, we have experienced more than most. We actually left the house, all of us. So, you have any closing thoughts on this topic?
I just want to keep our friends that are out there listening to us. Thank you guys for joining in. You know, and tell a friend, share this episode, have an argument about it, whatever. If you want to join us, you can join us on Patreon. Search up the Mindfall podcast on Patreon, and you can join us at one of our subscriber levels. We're going to get some bonus material going here soon. We appreciate everything you can do. And if you have a topic that you want us to explore in the future, you can email us at mindfall.podcast@gmail.com. And Mike, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode because I'm having a blast. We're going to be here. We're going to talk about some crazy stuff, and we're going to eat popcorn and keep going down these rabbit holes.
Eat the popcorn, have some interesting conversations here at Mindfall. It's good talking to you, Mike.
Yeah. Likewise, Mike. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
Welcome to Mindfall, where the questions twist and turn. Dive deep with us, we'll watch ideas burn. Down the rabbit hole we go, chasing thoughts you've yet to know.